I never imagined that a simple waltz would cause a millionaire to face his deepest shame. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The ball was lit with golden chandeliers, each crystal reflecting the tense energy swirling in the grand hall. I stood at the edge, heart racing, taking in the guests twirling in their elegant gowns and sharp tuxedos. But there was a shadow behind the sparkle. Lucien Morgan, the enigmatic millionaire everyone adored, stood in the center, his deep blue eyes scanning the crowd. A faint tremor ran through me as I watched him move. There was something off, something lurking beneath his charming smirk. I could feel the weight of unspoken secrets dancing around him, heavy like the crushing silence echoing between his deliberate moves. He stepped forward, reaching for me, pulling me into the dance. My heartbeat quickened. The room twirled away, replaced by the shadows etched on his handsome face. As his fingers brushed against my waist, I felt a shock. A stark taste of fear mixed with excitement, fear of what I might discover. We glided across the floor, but the chill in his eyes froze time. Every twirl revealed fragments of his guarded soul. I glimpsed pain lurking behind the confidence, guilt boiling just beneath the surface. Each step we took seemed to echo our troubled thoughts, a silent conversation of swirling memories. Do you ever feel trapped? I dared to whisper, though every word felt like a risk. His lips tightened, and for a split second I feared I'd crossed a line. The music faded, and only the swift beating of my heart filled the widening chasm. He released my hand like it burned him. The crowd blurred as he stepped back, expression shifting from shock to something darker. Rumors swirled sharp like daggers as faces turned to watch us. The air compressed, filled with unspoken judgments. Who knew what fate awaited him for this waltz, for this fleeting touch? I held my breath, waiting for the fallout, for the secret that would unravel before the whole world. The tension pierced like a knife, palpable, thick. Just then, the piercing sound of shattering glass echoed. A crystal chandelier broke, slowing gravity, stretching the moment into eternity. Could this be the night he'd lose everything? I stepped forward, wanting to bridge the gap. But all I could see in his eyes was the glimmer of 1,000 unspoken fears, wrapped in the mystery of his shame. Who would slip from the shadows first? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The abrupt crash of glass resonated in the hollow space between us, a sound that echoed the very fractures of his carefully constructed facade. I could feel the rhythmic thump of my heart drown out the murmurs of the crowd, their curiosity morphing into whispers laced with judgment, as they became unwilling witnesses to a moment layered in raw vulnerability. Lucien, I called out softly, not knowing if it was too late to recapture what had been lost in that brief waltz. The flames of the chandelier's remnants flickered in his cobalt gaze, illuminating a tempest of emotions both familiar and foreign. He recoiled further, his jaw set tight as if grinding through a storm of memories that swirled and clashed against a frail heart. People turned their attention back to the trails of glistening glass on the floor, the moment having slipped to an afterthought, conveniently tucking away their own discomfort. But deep within me, the world melted away, the others fading into obscurity. I could see only him, caught in a battle between the allure of intimacy and a suffocating past. Just as I was about to step forward again, a delicate voice pierced through the ambience. Are you all right, Lucien? It was Clara, his childhood friend, the one person I believed could navigate the labyrinth of his emotions. She rushed to his side, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. For a moment he softened, the harsh lines of his expression dimming like the dying embers of the chandelier. I'm fine, he responded, but the strain in his voice betrayed him. Clara's eyes met mine, a silent exchange communicating what felt like 100 ungraspable sentiments. Empathy flickered across her features, the kind of empathy that cradled wounds too deep for all but the most tender of souls to touch. Maybe you should step outside for a moment? She suggested, her voice now a gentle coax, smoothing the frayed edges of his discomfort. I felt a weight pull me towards him, a yearning to bridge the rift. Yet, I also sensed that a part of him wasn't ready. Perhaps no one ever could be as Lucien turned away and strode towards the balcony. He cast one last lingering glance at me. The flicker of hope reflected in his eyes a fleeting ember, igniting an unquenchable curiosity within my heart. I hesitated for an agonizing instant, battling with my own need to find solace in the distance he sought. But I couldn't ignore the call. He was grappling with ghosts, his pain pulled taut against the backdrop of glimmering laughter and twinkling lights. I followed him outside into the cool night air. The moon cast low upon the waves of soft fabric drifting through the banquet room as the scene inside felt separated by layers of illusion. The balcony offered solace and reprieve from the chaos. The stars hung like scattered diamonds across the canvas of the sky, silent witnesses to our unfolding narrative. Lucien, I began, my voice shaking slightly. You don't have to bear this alone. He stopped, his broad shoulders tense as if my words grazed the edges of a wound too raw to touch. I don't know if I'm ready for anyone to understand, he replied, his voice quivering like the wind that tousled his hair. There are parts of me, parts one can never show. But you don't have to show everything to be free, I pressed, reaching a tentative hand toward him. It's okay to let someone in just a little bit. He took a deep breath, but it cracked with uncertainty. You don't understand what it means to be like me, the weight of decisions that haunt the nights, the faces that judge before the truth unfurls, he whispered, his vulnerability washing over me like raindrops on parched soil. I don't need to share the same experiences, I replied, but I can listen. Please let me be here for you. In that moment, despite the wall he had erected, I felt drawn to him, tethered by a deep urgency to unravel the tangled fabric of his soul. But before he could respond, a distant figure appeared at the far end of the balcony. It was Victor, Lucien's former business partner, striding with a predatory confidence that sent unease. Swaying through me. The air thickened as he approached, and the faint stars bore witness to the confrontation brewing between them. Thought I'd find you here, hiding in the shadows, Victor sneered, his voice dripping with a smirk. Is this how you plan to manage your image now? Dancing with strangers at charity balls? Lucien's body stiffened. All softness wiped away in an instant as rage and shame surged to the surface. Their eyes clashed like titans wrestling through a storm, the patterns of their past splintering along the line separating them. As if you ever had the right to judge me, Lucien retorted, his voice steady but edged with a trembling resolve. I sensed that this wasn't just about a fallen chandelier. The cost of their partnership wove deeper, tangled within the very fabric of his existence. Victor stepped closer, taking a moment to gaze at me appraisingly. And who is this? Another pawn in your pathetic little game? You think your charm can change the narrative? He is just a washed-up millionaire, battling the demons he created. Stop! I shouted, every ounce of my being suddenly ignited to defend him, to shield the tender pieces of Lucien I had glimpsed so brightly. You're wrong. He deserves far better than the judgment you pass so easily. Lucien's gaze met mine, a flicker of gratitude woven into the storm behind his eyes. In that moment, amidst Victor's contempt, I realized how entangled and fragile this web of emotion was, needing the permission to navigate its dangerous corners. What do you think you can do for him? This isn't a fairy tale, Victor laughed cruelly, his voice chilling. And just as the air thickened with tension and despair, something inside me pushed against the weight of uncertainty. With every ounce of determination I possessed, I blinked back tears and faced the looming shadows of fate. The roles had shifted. Not only was I here for him, but somehow, I also needed to be a catalyst for my own redemption. Suddenly, a call startled us. A radiant figure, a journalist spilling secrets about Lucien to the press, emerges from the ornate doors behind Victor. The world was about to learn more than what they should. Our fragile moment of connection was overshadowed by an impending storm of truth, revealing secrets that might change everything. What had begun as a simple waltz was now a spiraling affair of consequences bound to reveal even deeper layers of shame and redemption. What lay ahead? I could only clutch tightly to the hope that lingered like the distant twinkling stars. With the sudden intrusion of the journalist and the sharp glint of memory in Victor's eyes, the air felt electrified, charged with the impending fallout of fractured truths. The words hung between us, an invisible weight threatening to suffocate the tenuous bond Lucien and I had just begun to forge. As if the world were conspired against healing, The very act of stepping outside had become the catalyst for an inevitable avalanche. "Lucien, listen," I began, trying to keep the panic from seeping into my voice. But he didn't look at me. A blend of humiliation and fury coursed through his veins, and the flickering resolve I had seen in his eyes shifted into something darker. The shadows of the past loomed closer as if they were alive, tracing the contours of his insecurities. Every ounce of bravery I had mustered, every gentle plea I had offered, now paled in the face of an oncoming storm. Victor thrived on chaos, a sinister smile stretching across his lips as he fed off Lucien's vulnerability. "You should really hear what people say when they think you aren't around," he taunted, stepping closer, his voice low enough to draw a whimper from the air. "Funny how the walls you hide behind can crumble just as quickly as your empire." "Shut up, Victor," Lucien hissed, hands clenched into fists at his sides, the turmoil in his eyes a suffocating vortex. "You don't have any right to speak to me, right? I have every right when I've watched you ruin everything: your family, your fortune, your reputation. You've fallen from grace, and I'm here to remind you of that." Victor examined me with calculated disdain, his gaze flickering back to Lucien. "And look at your new friend. How long before she gets fed up with the wreckage you call a life? People are watching, Lucien. People don't forgive easily." My heart raced. Each syllable of Victor's words sank deeper like hooks into flesh. I couldn't handle the implications bearing down on us. "Lucien isn't a wreck," I interjected, my voice trembling but resolute. "He is a person who is trying to make amends for the past. He deserves understanding." "Understanding?" Victor laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "What is that when betrayal runs as deep as his? But carry on, play house if you must. It'll just give you something to write about in your memoirs." Before he could finish, Lucien lunged forward, stopping just short of the threshold where the light from inside faded into dark. "Get out of my life, Victor. You're not in charge of who I am or who I can become." His voice cracked, raw and rattled, echoing in the vast emptiness of the night. For a moment the air stilled as apprehension draped over us like a heavy curtain. I stepped closer, fingertips almost brushing his arm, hesitant but longing to provide solace. Lucien's boldness shone brightly, fighting against the crushing weight of his past that Victor brandished like a weapon. But as with all storms, a dark shadow loomed in our periphery. The journalist was already on their phone, capturing the chaos unfiltered. "This is going to make for a real story. I can already see the headlines spinning," they declared triumphantly, their voice slicing through the night. "Don't," I murmured, fear creeping in. "Please don't do this." But they were already moving, intent on drawing blood from Lucien's wounds. The camera clicked, snapping moments that would forever alter perceptions, capturing his anguish as if it were a trophy. In that instant my heart shattered for him, torn between the desire to shield Lucien from the harm and my own dread of becoming another part of this messy tableau. "Enough!" Lucien roared, and yet beneath that fury was despair. The vulnerability I had seen just moments before now teetered on the precipice of public scrutiny, the very demons he fought against threatening to be unveiled for the world to see. In the distance, the sound of approaching sirens began to drown out our voices, amplifying the drama of the encounter, filling the night with a siren song of chaos. My chest tightened, caught in the web of Lucien's unraveling desperation clawed at me. Couldn't let his journey end here in this anguishing haze of betrayal. "Lucien, you're not alone. We can face this together," I breathed urgently, barely able to keep the tremor from my voice. But as I looked at him, I recognized that the choice to embrace the light was his to make. And in that moment, the flickering ember I had seen earlier dimmed out, casting its heavy shadow over hope. With a shaky breath, Lucien turned back to Victor and the journalist, determination flashing in his cobalt gaze. "You have no power over me anymore." But the chaos spiraling around us painted uncertainty across his features. Just then, a thunderous crash echoed from within the banquet hall, as a waiter stumbled, plates flying in a cascade of porcelain and panic. It felt like a prelude to the mayhem that was about to consume us. And then, before I could fully process what was happening, a shocking revelation washed over the air like poison mist. "I'm here to report on more than just Lucien. Someone else's skeletons are about to be unveiled," the journalist taunted. The world spun on its axis, and my heart dropped, entangled once again in the storm. Everything I had tried to shield him from, everything I wanted to protect him from, began to lay itself bare before us both. And as the mask of calm cracked under the weight of the truth, I stared at Lucien, knowing that we stood at the edge of a precipice. Was this the moment his sins would march into the light? Even more unsettling, was I truly ready for the revelations that lay ahead? The stars dimmed above us as the fabric of our lives twisted impossibly toward an unknown abyss, the tension crackling in the air, waiting to see who would take the plunge into the chaos first. The echoes of shattering porcelain faded, but the weight of Victor's cruel words lingered in the air like smoke. Each phrase ignited fires I feared would consume us both, laying bare the rawest parts of Lucien's soul. Someone else's skeletons are about to be unveiled. Those words twisted in my mind like a serpent, slithering into every corner of hope I had tried to nurture. Lucien's eyes were like fractured glass, showcasing the hurt and fury woven together through years of wounds barely stitched. His jaw clenched tight, yet I could see the tremors of uncertainty in his hands. I reached for him again, my heart hammering against my chest. "Please, Lucien," I urged softly. "Don't let him pull you back into that darkness." "It's too late," he whispered, the agony in his voice a dagger to my heart. He looked past me, toward Victor and the journalist, and whatever flicker of resolve he had reclaimed began to dim again. The flames of his courage wavered against the icy breath of defeat. "I can't hide from who I am or what I've done. I don't think I can be what you need me to be." Panic welled within me. "No. You are so much more than your past. You are fighting for more than just yourself," I implored, desperation coloring my tone. "You're fighting for your future. For us." But I felt the words slipping through my fingers like water, impossible to grasp. Someone cried out as the waiter, struggling to regain his composure, careened into a table, sending layers of silk napkins cascading to the floor. Laughter mixed with the chaos, a dissonant melody in the face of everything unraveling around us. It was a mockery of the waltz I had never imagined would lead to such a catastrophic unmasking, but amidst the noise, I felt the tiniest flicker of solidarity spark in the eyes of a few attendees. One woman, her dress shimmering like the twilight, stood and caught Lucien's gaze. "Victor, you're a coward," she called out, a burst of bravery fueling her voice. "And this I ascend to your show." The ripple of her words ignited murmurs of agreement, a small tremor of defense rising against the desolation. Lucien's shoulders tensed momentarily, hope flickering once again. Just as quickly, though, it was layered beneath shame, buried under the weight of years steeped in regret. It was a long path back from where he stood, and I could feel the distance stretching between us. Victor sneered, unfazed by the outcry, his laughter cutting through the tension. "Is that so? Let us allow the truth to determine who the coward is." He turned to the journalist, eyes gleaming like a predator, ready to pounce. "You want a story? I can give you one that will shake the foundations of this little fate." As if sensing a change in the air, the journalist advanced, camera flashing like a sword drawn, seeking blood. "Let us bring it all to light, Lucien. The world deserves to know not just your fall from grace but also know." Lucien's voice surged with raw intensity. It was a damning roar, filled with anguish and desperation. "You don't get to define me." Emotion spilled over like the wreckage around us, mixing with the gold and silver of the night. But there, beneath his declaration, I could sense the tremors of him spiraling into depths he might not be able to claw back from. How brittle his resolve was already. A lingering suspicion began to creep beneath my skin. What if there was more to his past than he had revealed? A shadow so dark that even the light I fought to hold for him couldn't reach it. In that moment I realized I was holding my breath, wondering whether this was the turning point, the moment when all would be laid bare. And if so, would it mean healing or severance? Just as I was about to reach out again, Victor pressed a finger to his lips, and the world seemed to freeze again, a brief interlude before unraveling once more. What's more shocking than the villain being exposed? What if the real devastation lies with the one hiding behind the mask? A wave of dread washed over me. What did he know? I turned to Lucien, but his expression was unreadable, a mix of defiance and apprehension, fear clawing at his throat. And then a tremor ran through the air, a shift that echoed like thunder, wrapping around the crowd. It was the rustle of secrets ready to spill. The journalist raised the camera like a wand, charged with dark magic. "So tell me, Lucien, how does it feel to know that everyone is waiting to hear not just about your fall, but about the one who helped cause it?" My heart lurched, a visceral response to the impending truth. Had I really been blind to something lurking beneath? I searched Lucien's gaze, desperate for answers, but all I found were flickering doubts. In that moment I felt an unsettling shift within myself, as if I was also teetering along the edge of revelation, watching helplessly as the abyss loomed larger. Would we be consumed by it together, or had I unknowingly signed my own death warrant by daring to become something for him amidst the ruins? And just as Victor's smile grew wider, and the camera focused on Lucien's pale countenance, I realized I was yet again standing on the precipice of more chaos, contemplating a truth that might shatter everything I believed about love, trust, and redemption. The air thickened with tension, a palpable fog of unease settling over the lavish ballroom. I could feel it pressing against my skin, constricting my breath as Victor's gaze bore into Lucien like a blade. There was power in the way he wielded those words, a sickening thrill of control that unfurled in the corner of the room. My frustration boiled beneath the surface, every fiber of my being screaming for liberation, both for Lucien and for myself. Don't listen to him. You're not defined by who he thinks you are, I shouted, though my voice felt swallowed by the enormity of the moment. A fleeting glance over the gathered crowd revealed uncertainty etched on the faces of friends and strangers alike. They were mere spectators to a tragedy unfolding, impotent against the cruelty of revelation. Victor's laughter echoed triumphantly, slicing through the facade of civility like a knife through satin. But the truth has a way of liberating itself, doesn't it? Let us peel back the layers, shall we? He indicated the journalist who seemed to feed off the chaos, his camera positioned like a warrior's weapon, eager for a story that promised exposure. Lucien's face paled even further, the shadows of his past lurking just below the surface. I could see the tremors of that ghostly pain acting like chains, dragging him down into a fathomless abyss. What had Victor done to him? What had he seen or known that could hold so much power? A deeper resolve ignited within me as I took a step closer, planting my feet firmly beside Lucien. You're a survivor, I yelled, eyes wide with desperation. No one has the right to make you feel lesser than what you are. Not even him. The words tasted bitter on my tongue, heavy with the weight of uncertainty, yet I refused to let the darkness fold in on us completely. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of appreciation flash across his eyes, a fragile petal trying to bloom amid the storm. But it drowned quickly, snuffed out by turmoil. Survivor or not, the misguided always lose themselves in the stories they tell, Victor retorted with that venomous smirk, his gaze laser-focused on Lucien. And every survivor has blood on their hands. Why not share the truth, Lucien? Everyone's waiting, including me. And with that, amid the oppressive hush that blanketed the room, Lucien's facade began to crack. I reached for his hand, intertwining my fingers with his, feeling the heat of his turmoil coursing through our connection. If I couldn't wrap myself around his fear, I could at least anchor him to the moment. Tell me, Lucien, what sets your heart aflame? Where's your light? I pleaded, my voice trembling but steady, like a flame thawing the briskness of their attacks. You have to fight, not for them but for yourself. Show them how beautiful you are. Victor scoffed, his derision ringing in my ears. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But I'm sure what he's hiding is anything but beautiful. The amusement in his voice was chilling, a taunting reminder that vulnerability often lay masked behind layers of hurt. But then, as if summoned by divine intervention, the woman in the dress of twilight stepped forward again. Her voice, though quiet, carried a resonance that silenced all other commotion. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's embracing who you are in the face of it, she said. Her eyes locked on Lucien with a fierce determination. Show them your truth. It hit me, perhaps this is how we could find a glimmer of light in the shadowed chaos. With each emboldened voice, we were inviting a sliver of hope into this devastating tableau. I had to believe that unveiling oneself could spark healing rather than destruction. Lucien, you can do this, I urged, squeezing his hand tighter. You are not alone in this anymore. Not when there are people ready to stand alongside you. I could feel the tension in his hand, wavering against my faith, yet something was shifting, a crack forming in the armor he had fortified for so long. But just as he seemed to shake off the shackles of despair, Victor decided to deliver the final blow. Let us not forget the one left behind. The one whose secrets intertwine with yours, Lucien. The one who had everything to lose because of your choices. Do you think they will stand with you when the truth spills forth? Or will you bury them in your sorrows too? My heart dropped. The weight of his words wrapped around my chest like a vice, squeezing tightly as my mind raced with possibilities. Who was he talking about? Lucien's past echoed sharply in the recesses of my mind, implicating me as the very shadow Victor wielded. Lucien, I whispered, panic seeping into the edges of my consciousness. What have you not told me? It was a question rooted in fear, and I wished with every ounce of my being that I hadn't had to ask it. His gaze faltered, confusion washing over him. Would those walls I had strived to dismantle now seal us off again? There's so much, he began, his voice cracking, but Victor's laughter thundered over his words. It was a laugh that heralded a storm, one that would strip both of us of our sanctuary. And just like that, the room tensed in anticipation, a tightrope stretched taut as the crowd waited for the unraveling. My heart raced. Hope and fear danced hand in hand while a devastating revelation loomed ahead. Time hung suspended, and as Victor prepared to deliver the next blow, I held tight to Lucien's hand, ready to face whatever storm was yet to come, hoping desperately that love was a shield strong enough to withstand the wrath of the truth. The silence deepened, a heavy, suffocating pall that threatened to crush the fragile hope I had for Lucien. My heart pounded in my chest, the rhythm echoing like a ticking clock above an impending doom. Victor's words coiled like serpents around Lucien, each one tightening until I feared he might snap like a brittle twig. Face it, Lucien. We both know the consequences of your actions. You're not the only one with a story fraught with pain. A little birdie told me there's someone close to you and they're not exactly a fan of yours anymore. Victor taunted, his voice dripping with twisted encouragement. My thoughts raced as I searched Lucien's face for answers. Anguish flickered in his eyes, mingling with latent fear. There's someone? I whispered, pressing deeper into his side, feeling the heat radiate from his skin. My gut twisted at the thought of someone watching him suffer, carrying a burden because of him that I didn't know about. Enough of this charade, Lucien. Dignity isn't built on lies. Victor's eyes gleamed, hungry for the pain he inflicted. You owe it to them, don't you? To show the world what you've done. Please, I said. You don't have to do this. Tell me who it is and we can. I can't, Lucien broke out, his voice barely above a whisper, trembling with the weight of secrets. I thought they left it all behind. Who? I pressed, the lightness of hope colliding with the weight of despair. You can't hold on to the past forever. The tension in the air crystallized as Lucien's eyes drifted away, lost somewhere between the past and present. I was young, he murmured, anguish etched into his features. I thought it was all in my past. In my reckless youth, I made choices that affected others in ways I never intended. What choices, Lucien? My voice cracked, heart aching. You can't push me away when we both need to confront this. You have me now. I didn't know it would. He paused, emotions crashing through him like waves on jagged rocks. I didn't think it would come back to haunt me. But she's been fighting the battles I abandoned. Who? I pressed, determination igniting something within me. If Lucien was at the center of this storm, I refused to let him weather it alone. Victor took a step closer, a predator relishing the release of tension before the kill. It's easy to forget, Lucien. But the past is not as forgiving as you'd like it to be. Perhaps she'll finally have her say. With that, Victor gestured dramatically, urging the crowd forward, and I turned to see a figure emerge from the back of the room. The air shifted, charged with a crackling energy that made my heart race. There she stood, a dark silhouette molded by the golden glimmer of the chandelier above, her presence drawing attention like a magnet. Angela, Lucien gasped, the color draining from his face as he recognized the woman who stepped into the light, her expression a mixture of resolve and sorrow. The room buzzed with murmurs, their excitement palpable, a fresh heartbeat encapsulated in a moment fraught with uncertainty. Her eyes locked onto Lucien, filled with a fire that flickered between righteous anger and deep sorrow. You think you can simply forget about me? About what you did? She shouted, her voice breaking through the thick veneer of shock enveloping the crowd. I didn't forget. I thought you'd found happiness, Lucien stammered, but the words fell like ash upon the oppositional force radiating from her. Happiness? Don't make me laugh. You ran from everything, Lucien. And I was left in the ruins of your choices. Angela's voice trembled, every syllable laced with years of unprocessed grief. You owe me the truth, not just to me but to yourself. In this motel of heartbreak, as Lucien's shoulders slumped under the weight of her claim, I felt an electric jolt of desperate hope coursing through my veins. "You can do this," I whispered, desperately willing him to find his strength. "You don't have to hide anymore. You have to fight." Yet, the moment we all awaited felt miles away as a tear slipped down Angela's cheek. With each second that passed, I prayed that the storm between them would yield to clarity rather than chaos. "Tell them, Lucien. Tell them everything," she urged, her voice urgent, pushing against the swell of moments frozen in time, moments that were now slipping into unresolved space. "Face your past. Don't let it chase you any longer." I held my breath, feeling the magnitude of 1,000 unspoken truths hang in the air like an ill-omened storm cloud, ready to unleash its fury. As the world outside shrank to a singular focus, the Richter scale measuring the tremors of Lucien's heart, the tension folded into a gnawing question. How would he respond? "Lucien," I implored, my voice trembling against the silence laden with invisible chains. "Are you ready to share your truth, to let us in?" But the storm had already transformed into a tempest of doubt that threatened to swallow us whole. Just before Lucien could speak, an unexpected sound, a soft yet piercing cry, burst forth from the crowd. My heart sank as I turned to see a familiar face. One I had never anticipated, a person whose presence threatened to unravel the delicate thread of hope that hung between us. "Lucien, look at me," she exclaimed, stepping from the shadows, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. The words hung precariously in the air, poised to shatter the remaining vestiges of hope we clung to. As the realization of her identity dawned upon me, an icy dread settled within my bones. There was no turning back from this pivotal moment. The truth was about to unfurl, like a flag unfurling in the tempest as all eyes turned toward the horizon of unveiled mysteries. Lucien froze, his breath catching in his throat. The crowd's murmurs transformed into a cacophony of whispers, each voice a thread woven into the emotional tapestry that enveloped us. I turned to face the source of the disruption, a tall figure whom I immediately recognized, though I had only seen glimpses of her life interwoven with Lucien's shadows. "Clara," I breathed, my insides twisting at the weight of the revelation. Clara, a name that had slipped through the cracks of Lucien's past like sand through a sieve, now stood before us, the embodiment of unresolved tension. Her presence ignited a flame of anxiety in the air, radiating heat that could melt away the icy barriers conjured by years of silence. "Clara," Lucien murmured, disbelief lacing his voice. His gaze darted between Angela and Clara, lost in the complex web of their shared history. "What are you doing here?" "I came to find you," she said, her voice firm despite the tremor that ran through her body. "You can't keep hiding from the truth, Lucien. Not from Angela, and certainly not from me." She stepped closer, the golden light of the chandelier reflecting the determination etched into her features. "You owe me that much." Angela's face twisted with a mixture of anger and hurt. "You mean this is all about you?" She spat, the bitterness piercing the moment like an errant arrow. "You both want him to confront his past while pretending you have no part in it?" "No," Clara shouted back, her voice trembling but resolute. "I came to tell him that it's okay. It's okay to face the truth together. That past doesn't have to define us." But beneath her bravado, I could sense the turmoil boiling just under the surface, an undercurrent that threatened to pull us all under. Lucien flinched, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. "I didn't want you to be a part of this anymore, Clara. Not like this. What did you think would happen? That you could just erase me from the story?" she implored, hurt gleaming in her eyes. "We've all been fighting demons, Lucien, and you cannot simply shut the door and pretend they'll go away." Tension encased us, unyielding as a vice. I felt the weight of their shared history pressing in on me, suffocating any attempts at reason. The memories that lingered in the space between them unfolded, years of pain and regret wrapped in the bonds of friendship turned sour. I wanted them to unfold, to unravel this untold story of their past, but the fear of what could emerge froze the words in my throat. "Clara," Lucien began, his voice cracking under the strain. The earlier resolve in his eyes seemed to falter, disarmed by her presence and the weight of acknowledgement crashing into him. "I didn't think you'd wanted to find me." "I didn't not really," she admitted, a tremor in her voice revealing the vulnerability beneath her bravado. But with each passing day, it became harder to ignore the emptiness. I thought if I found you it might help us both put our pasts to rest. Rest? Angela echoed, scoffing as emotion blinded her. What about the lives you shattered, the people you left behind? Suddenly, the crowd felt like a swirling tempest, the eyes of the onlookers heavy upon us as if we were actors in a tragic play. I felt their thoughts wrapping around me, tightening like chains. What terrible secret were we being pulled into? Would we shatter like glass? Or could this moment perhaps lead to healing? Stop, I pleaded, but the words dripped with urgency rather than authority. We can't keep throwing blame around. Lucien, you need to speak. Tell them. Tell us. You can't keep them in the shadows anymore. In that wrenching moment, everything became a confluence of aching longing and profound sorrow. I could see Lucien's internal struggle, the dance of his thoughts flickering like a candle struggling against the wind. With a single exhale I reached out, placing my hand on his arm, grounding him in the chaos. Lucien, we're here for you. Take that leap. Don't let this moment slip away, I urged softly as his gaze flicked nurturingly between Angela and Clara. I hoped he could wrestle with his emotions, the burden of choice hanging heavily in the air. But just then, a woman in the crowd stirred, a stranger whose presence sent a shockwave of recognition through me. Mira, wait! The woman cried. I can't let this happen. Her voice rang out, sharp like a knife slicing through the tension. Lucien's face fell further, his eyes locking onto the newcomer, confusion swirling around him. Mira, he echoed, disbelief etched across his features as he took a hesitant step towards her. You're here? I didn't think it was right, she said, her brow furrowing with anguish. But you need the whole truth, Lucien. Not just fragments. You deserve to hear it all. The air grew heavier with that revelation, a cascade of uncertainty descending upon us. I felt my heart plummet into a deep abyss, unsure of what was about to unravel. How could one moment bear such weight, such revelation? The walls of Lucien's carefully constructed world threatened to collapse, the ground beneath us shifting as whispers of long-buried secrets rose to the surface. His gaze darted between the three formidable women standing before him, the pillars of his past, each holding a piece of the intricate puzzle he had long tried to forget. Please, I murmured, my voice almost faltering. You cannot keep running, Lucien. We're all here. We can face this together. But his expression shifted, sculpting alarm into resolve as he stepped back from the precipice. What do you mean by the whole truth? And with that question hung in trembling silence, I felt the very foundations of our fragile hope shatter under the weight of things better left unsaid, the impending storm now unavoidable. In a space where confrontation loomed, all we could do was brace ourselves for the unending storm that was about to break free. The silence that followed Lucien's question hung heavy, the air taut with unresolved strain and unspoken fears. I felt the weight of the moment crush down upon us, a collective inhalation where time seemed suspended, like the fragile pause just before the storm breaks. Mira stepped forward, her expression a blend of concern and urgency. Lucien, you deserve to understand where all of this began, she said, her voice almost a whisper, yet cutting through the chaos like a clarion call. There's so much you don't know, so much that has been hidden. Lucien's eyes darted, a tempest of emotions swirling within him. What are you talking about? He pressed, desperation creeping into his tone, as if the mere acknowledgement of her words was enough to unravel him completely. It's about your father, Mira continued, clutching her hands tightly as if afraid to unravel her own revelations. He was involved in things you never knew, dark dealings that have left scars on all of us. It's why Clara and I, her voice faltered as her gaze dropped, and I could almost see fragmented pieces of history flashing behind her eyes. Stifled gasps erupted from the crowd, and I could sense the tide shifting, an undercurrent of curiosity mingled with dread. Clara's face paled, the color draining as she stood frozen. You're saying this is about my father? Lucien's voice rose, laced with incredulity. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why was I kept in the dark? Mira shook her head firmly, regret lining her features. Because it was safer that way, Lucien. For you. You were too young to bear the weight of that knowledge, and we thought. She hesitated, locking eyes with Clara. Perhaps we would find a way to protect you from the world he created. As the fragments of truth repositioned themselves around us, I felt the ground beneath my feet begin to wobble. This wasn't just about Lucien anymore. It was an entire foundation of trust and history that was at stake. Each revelation threatened to redefine every relationship intertwined in this chaotic moment. "But I have to know," Lucien shouted, his anguish stripping away the remnants of his composure. "How could you all pretend as if everything was fine? Don't you realize what this silence has cost us?" Angela stepped beside him, her presence fierce yet laced with a heaviness that betrayed her own turmoil. "Life isn't simple, Lucien. You don't understand how these secrets have torn us apart. How they haunt us every single day." Her voice cracked with sorrow, and I felt the tremors ricochet through her like ghostly echoes of the past. As emotions soared and collided around us, I grasped Lucien's arm tighter, an anchor in an ever-shifting tide. He needed to navigate these murky waters, but every revelation felt like a curse and a blessing intertwined. "Please let us not do this here," I urged, my heart racing from the weight of our situation. "Let us talk outside, away from all this noise." I gestured toward the crowd, sensing their prying eyes burrowing burdens deeper into our souls. Lucien hesitated, a flicker of vulnerability glimmering beneath his steadfast exterior. "I have to hear it all," he said, every word steeped in determination. "No more hiding. No more silence." Mira nodded, her resolve fortified. "Then let us go. I want to ensure you understand all of it, Lucien. You deserve to see the full picture." And as we began moving, a bubble of uncertainty surrounded us, the weight of muted screams and suppressed memories heavy on our souls. Clara trailed behind, her expression a ghostly mask of hope tempered by fear, while Angela's eyes shone with unspent tears, a tempest waiting to break outside. The night wrapped around us like a dark shroud, the moonlight casting an eerily calm glow across the landscape. I stole a glance at Lucien, whose face was now mottled with anxiety and nascent resolve, as though he was on the precipice of discovery but terrified of what lay beyond. "Lucien," I started, wanting to bridge the widening chasm, but the words felt inadequate. How could I guide him through this revelation of shattered innocence when I myself was lost in its labyrinth? He turned to me, desperation glimmering in his eyes. "Do you think any of this will change anything? Or will it just hurt us more?" I reached out, fingers brushing against his, a tender reminder that he wasn't alone. "Facing the truth is painful, but it's the only way we can ever heal. You have to trust that understanding what happened will guide you to a better tomorrow." But even as I spoke those words, a nagging doubt gnawed at my heart. I couldn't shake the feeling that what we were about to uncover would alter everything, not just for Lucien, but for all of us. Before I could voice my lingering concerns, Clara stepped forward, a heartbreaking resolve with every step. "Lucien, let me start the story. You deserve the truth, and I owe you my honesty." As she spoke, I felt the air grow dense, crushed beneath the weight of anticipation. I could sense the first spark of truth igniting in the chilly night air, the tremors of all we had ever known creeping closer. "Just know," Mira added, glancing between Lucien and Clara, "that this isn't just about your father's actions. It's about all of us. The consequences of silence ripple larger than any of us could have imagined." As her words settled in the cold air, I braced myself for the cascade of truths and revelations that lay ahead. Little did we know that within those barriers of silence was a revelation that would spiral us into a darkness none of us could fathom. And just as Clara prepared to unveil the damning tale, a piercing scream ripped through the still night, sending chills down my spine. "No! Stop! You can't do this!" In that moment, the world turned back, and I realized we were not just unraveling Lucien's past but stepping on the precipice of something far larger, a confrontation with shadows we had never anticipated. The scream echoed like a gunshot through the quiet night, reverberating off the trees and into the depths of our collective hearts. We spun around, caught off guard, desperate to grasp the source of the turmoil that had so abruptly shattered our fragile gathering. "Clara!" Mira cried out, shock coloring her voice as she instinctively reached for her. But a softer sound caught the air. A whimper, followed by muffled sobs, drew our attention to a figure stumbling from behind a nearby tree line, the unmistakable silhouette of Clara's younger sister, Elodie. "Elodie?" Clara rushed to her, panic twisting her features. "What's wrong? What happened?" With trembling hands, Elodie wiped her tears, desperation etched into every line of her face. "They know," she gasped, collapsing into Clara's arms. "They found out everything. It's all falling apart." The sheer panic in her voice sent shivers through me, igniting an immediate instinct of dread. Lucien's eyes widened, panic ensnaring the depths of his own turmoil. "Who knows what?" he asked, his voice dangerously low, revealing glints of anger that underscored his fear. "They're coming, Clara. They want to silence us. They said we're no better than him." Elodie's breath hitched with every word as she clung to her sister, drowning in overwhelming emotions. "They're angry because you're finally speaking out. They said their revenge isn't over." Mira's hand flew to her mouth, the truth hitting her like a tidal wave. The shadows of the past weren't simply remnants, they were alive, eager to strike back at any hint of defiance. "No," she breathed, the weight of uncertainty crashing down around us as she surveyed the encroaching darkness that always loomed. Lucien's stance turned rigid. "What do you mean, revenge? Did someone threaten you?" His voice was steady but strained, a delicate balance of concern and budding rage clawing at his composure. "Who? What do we need to do?" "They said they'd come for us if we ever dared to expose their secrets. They know what your father did, Lucien. They know everything," Elodie whispered, collapsing against Clara, who held her protectively, her eyes wide and unfocused, flicking between answers that had yet to reveal themselves. As turmoil grew more palpable, I peered at Lucien. He looked utterly shattered and disoriented, lost amidst a storm whose winds were only just beginning to rise. The revelation stared back at us, dark and formless, a shadow waiting to unfurl its wings. Myra's voice, filled with newfound resilience, pierced the suffocating darkness. "So we prepare ourselves. We want to be silenced. Not now." Her surety was contagious, each word a small flame sparking against the anxiety enveloping us all. But I still felt a haunting unease. The threat lurked just beyond our sight, alive yet invisible, like a specter taunting us, or worse, anticipating our every move. If they know our intentions, our steps may lead them straight to us. My heart raced as I weighed the words, fear punctuating the edge of every syllable. Lucien narrowed his eyes, determination solidifying within the uncertain depths. "Then we don't back down. If they think they can tear us apart with threats, they're wrong." He clenched his fists, conviction igniting a fire within him, a bloom born of despair. "We confront them, we fight this together." Clara stepped back, meeting her brother's fierce glare with veiled conflict. "But Lucien, you don't know who we're up against. This isn't just about you or your father. They have power, we've spent years running from them. Do you think we can win?" The night's stillness held its breath, suspended between possibility and peril. I sensed the tension wrap around us, a noose tightening with every passing moment. Every heart thudded heavily, every breath became an act of defiance against the despair gnawing at the corners of our resolve. Just as clarity seemed to dissolve, an unexpected voice sliced through our solemn resolve. "We can find strength in unity," whispered a soft voice. It was Angela, stepping closer, glowing with conviction laced in vulnerability. "We can stand together no matter how many times they try to break us." The warmth of her bravery surged through me, tinged with a sense of hope, a flicker amidst gathering shadows. "We need to gather whatever support we can," I remarked, realizing that alliances would be our strongest weapon. "Reach out to those who may stand with us. We can't let fear dictate our reality." But as the notion blossomed into shared resolve, Elodie's eyes widened in terror, her trembling frame a fragile vessel teetering on a towering precipice of uncertainty. "Don't talk about gathering help. They already know," she cried, her voice ringing with urgency. "There's no one left who can protect us. They control everything." With that statement, anger erupted within Lucien, fueling his resolve anew. "We may not be able to rely on anyone else, but we have something infinitely stronger." He cast a pointed look into the night, his jaw set with fierce determination. "Each other." And in that shared moment of connection, an understanding flickered among us, a realization that the truth, as painful as it may be, was the only light that could shine through the encompassing darkness. But as our determination grew, a shadow deepened in the distance, a figure stepping into the moonlight that chilled us to our core, a man whose face was masked by the veil of the night, yet eyes glinting with malignant purpose. "Good to see you all together," he called, his voice a haunting melody that sent shivers down my spine. "I've been waiting so long for this little reunion." Our resolve faltered and I felt panic explode within me, an instinctual urge to flee as dread spiraled in the depths of my stomach. The confrontation was no longer about unraveling the past, but about survival are now at the precipice of disarray, ripping away the fragile facade we thought we had built. The shadows inched closer, threatening to swallow us whole as dread twisted its way through the air. I could feel Lucien's tension radiating beside me, a visceral reaction to the threat that loomed, like a storm ready to unleash its fury. The figure stepped closer, a confident swagger in his approach as recognition crept into my mind, a face I dreamt of forgetting, the arch-nemesis of Lucien's past. It was Victor, but not the Victor the first had known. This man carried an air of menace, the kind that made my blood run cold. "I see you're all still playing the game," he drawled, eyes gleaming with malice. "But don't get too comfortable. Secrets have a way of getting out, and I suspect yours will slip away sooner than you think." The snide emphasis on "I" reverberated in the pit of my stomach like an echo of malicious intent. Lucien clenched his jaw, anger mixing with desperation. "Why are you here, Victor? You think you can keep threatening us forever?" he challenged, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "Every threat you throw is based on the past, on shadows. You're a coward." A cruel smile curled Victor's lips, revealing a glint of satisfaction. "Cowardice or survival? We'll see which one triumphs tonight." He stepped deeper into the moonlight, illuminating his features, a face lined with secrets and resentments unsaid. "You all don't understand what you're dealing with. You've awakened something you can't control." Elodie trembled against Clara, who squeezed her protector's hands tight, her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean? Is this a joke? You think we're afraid of you?" The defiance in her voice was quaking beneath layers of uncertainty, and though I admired her bravery, I could feel the overall dread wrapping tighter around us. "Afraid, yes. But not of me," Victor commented, casual as the blades of a knife slicing through intimacy. "You should be terrified of what's been set in motion by your meddling. You really think exposing old wounds will somehow make you strong? It won't. It'll only push everyone you care about into the line of fire." Despite the fear engulfing me, a flicker of defiance ignited within. He had underestimated us, mistaking our courage for ignorance. I glanced at Lucien, searching for reassurance. "He's trying to intimidate us. Don't let him win." But Lucien's expression mirrored my own fear, and I felt the cracks in his resolve widen under Victor's grim presence. "What do you want?" he interjected, words firm yet betraying the trembling confidence behind them. "Tell me, what will it take to keep you away from our lives?" Victor crossed his arms, the gleam of triumph dancing in his dark eyes. "It's never been about you, Lucien. Distractions won't keep you safe when real stakes are on the table. People are in play, and they're very much aware that you're back snooping around where you shouldn't." "What does that mean?" I demanded, stepping forward. "Who are you talking about? If you're trying to run a game, it won't work." The weight of Victor's gaze lingered on me, examining me like a pawn on a chessboard. "You're quite the concoction of courage and naivete. You really think you're protecting him, don't you? The truth may be your greatest downfall." "Enough," Clara interjected, voice fierce like a roar, rallying her undeterred spirit. "You think your words can shake us? Your threats mean nothing." Victor's smirk faded momentarily, replaced by a flicker of something dangerous. "Oh, Clara, you're all so eager to play the martyr. Just know that while you stand united, safety is an illusion. The past never forgets, especially when someone wants to settle a score. Then let them come for us." Lucien stepped forward, steeling himself with newfound clarity. "We'll face this head-on together. You don't control our fate." The tension on that battlefield of souls escalated, charged with energy as if the universe held its breath. In that moment, something shifted. Our resolve was a storm breaking through barricades meant to keep us separated. But just as triumph surged, Elodie's fearful voice trembled. "Lucien, it's not just about us. If they strike, it's not just our lives on the line." The unfortunate weight of truth fell upon us, spreading into the echoing silence. I grasped Lucien's arm tighter, realizing now the depth of the sacrifice we all have to make. "What do we do?" I asked, fear punctuating my spirit. "Facing him is just the beginning," Mira gasped, shaking with anxiety. "We need a plan." I shifted my focus back to Victor, ready for confrontation while hoping against hope that the darkness brewing around us could somehow ignite light. "Do you really think the puppet strings you've long used can be severed so easily? Your grip ends tonight, Victor." A flicker of rage flashed across his features before he laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. You'll soon find out how high the stakes truly are when old secrets resurface to drag you down. Just as he spoke those words, a roar of crowd chaos erupted from the hall behind us, a noise unlike anything I'd encountered. What now? I gasped as uncertainty loomed over us all. Victor's gaze turned cold. Looks like the festivity is over. He turned on his heel, walking back towards the steps leading into the hall. Don't say you weren't warned. The reckoning will visit you all. And it won't be gentle. With that, he disappeared into the throng, the impending tension shifting into unfathomable anxiety. We need answers, I urged, turning to the makeshift family we created, together bound by impending turmoil. What are we going to do? Who's coming for us? The past, Lucien murmured, breath caught in his throat. It's not done with us yet. We must stand firm on the precipice of truth, and embrace the light. This journey requires all of us to confront it head-on. A thread of strength strung between us ignited the night sky, marking the beginning of something brave and terrifying. But it would lead us into battle. Together, I murmured softly, squeezing Lucien's hand, an anchor against the swirling storm of turmoil we would bravely face. Always together. And with that, we turned, striding toward the chaos that awaited us inside. The night may have started filled with secrets and shadows, but we would bring our newfound understanding into the light, confronting the truth together. The promise we shared would be our shield, our solace, and through that bond, we would forge ahead stronger than the broken chains of the shadows that once held us captive. As we stepped into the gathering echoes of the ballroom, I took a resolute breath, anchoring our strength against the storm, ready to reclaim our truths. Let us find the courage to forgive, to face whatever comes. We are more than our past. We are woven together by choices yet to be made. In the resounding laughter and heartache swirling around us, I felt our hearts beat in unison, tethered through the uncertainty toward the flickering light of hope that shone ever so brightly ahead of us. And as our feet moved forward, I knew one powerful truth. Together we would be unstoppable. The final curtain awaited, and it was ours to write.